Okay, welcome back to Vintage Steel Garage. We're on the second episode of the VW campervan. The seals have come in from Alan Schofield. There is a difference between the two. I'll put a picture up to show the difference between the 2 years and explain, and we'll get on with it now. So come and join me down here. That sounded wrong, didn't it? Come and join me down below working on the car. As I half expected, there is a problem with these seals. These seals here, which are ending in part number 129A, are actually for the 71 to the 79 campervan, whereas this being a 68, 69, I say 68, 69 because it's from America and I can't quite remember what the date was, it's actually got the same beam as the split screen camper, which has a different seal. Now on, I think it was Just Campers, this was listed as the Type 2 as the only one, but if you go on the actual Alan Schofield website, which is more about, well, it started off with split screen campers, it's moved into these. Now these are actually genuine VW ones, because it's got a VW, strangely enough, Audi logo stamped on them, and this part number ends in 129, so that's 129, 129A, and you can see the difference and the thickness of them. Now what I think it was doing basically is with the two thinner ones, because there's one outside, it was just allowing the torsion tube and the arms to float and move around when I was cornering, and that was giving the feel of the play. So that is probably well, it's probably 50% thicker, so that's probably 10mm thick, and that's probably about 6 or 7mm thick. So yes, you can see the thickness there, difference. So obviously that's going to take up quite a bit of play on both sides. We're going to get these back on and hopefully do this side, and then it's just repeating it on the other side. Right, so let's get these new seals on and then get these arms back on. Yeah, they do feel better already, to be honest. It's definitely fitted on there better. Straight off. Let's put the bottom one on. There are needle rollers in there as well, so I'm just going to make sure they're in place. I can feel them in place, so I think we're good to go. Right, so now the tricky bit is picking this up in a one-off. Trying to get that on there. And get them to engage back in. This may take some swearing. So now I've actually got the arms in. You can see here it's just a case of actually getting this pivot, this. Now I've got the arms on, it's just a case of getting this grub screw in with a taper on for it to follow into the seat in that groove. Yeah, that's that in. Just do the top one. So there we are, I've got both arms back on this side now, and you can see that nicely moves up and down, and it's nice and free, so I can get the hood back on and build that up. Now the other thing I'm going to say here, for those of you who do span on a bit, you'll have noticed This vehicle is 54 years old and I undid every bolt without it being seized. Two reasons for that. One, I've owned it 10 years. No, I've owned it 14 years. So I've worked on it a lot, made sure it's okay and spot on. But more importantly, it has lived its entire life in California or my garage. It's hardly been out in the rain. You cannot underestimate that on a vehicle. This is not a rock monster. Whoever buys this is going to be so pleased that it's a 54-year-old vehicle. I've undone bolts on this easier than I've done on a 20-year-old Porsche. And you'll have witnessed that. Everything could just come apart easily. So I'm going to build this hub back up, do the same on the other side, and then that play on the front should be eliminated. So I'll be back in a bit. So now we've got the hub on, what I like to do now is just set the preload on the bearing. As I was saying, this is a taper bearing. So basically you can tighten this up. As you can see there, you can nip this up just to get the play on the bearings, or else there'll be too much play. So how I set them, I'll leave the caliper off just so you got the actual hub and the disc spinning nicely. I'm going to put the wheel back on just so I can feel the play as well, and then just nip that up. And the point to get it nipped up at, really, if I'll just zoom in and show you on this, you'll see there's basically a little grub screw in here to tighten up. So basically you're just going to nip these up just until you can just still get that washer. You heard it click then. You can just get that washer to move, and that should be about the right point. But I'm going to check with the wheel on, and then I know I've got it right in the... So I've got the wheel on now just so I can feel the play, and you're just going to feel a little bit of play. You probably can't hear that, but it's just got to get the point where that washer can still just move. You might just need a screwdriver just to get in. You can see that's just still moving. So I'm happy with that. Some people say nip them up and back them off a turn, but I'm happy with that. And that's spinning nice. So all I need to do is just tighten this up, take the wheel back off, put the caliper on, and this side is done. So you can see just before I put the wheel back on, we've actually replaced the bushes here, which are in the actual beam itself. The coil spring, okay, there's a bit of surface rust, but it's working okay. I've tested it out. The tie rods here, or the steering rods, these were replaced. You can see they look like new. The centre, both of them on both sides, you can just see, well, I think you can just see the other one there as well. The centre pivot, I remember replacing that on the beam. The brake pipes have been replaced, the flexible pipes were replaced, the calipers were reconditioned. You can still just see a little bit of the gold anodised in them. The pads were new, you can see all the clips and the pins are new. The discs were new, the bearings were new. These had been replaced, these ball joints had been replaced on these arms when I got it. So basically the whole front end of this camper van is new. So I'm going to stick it up on the other side, I'm going to button it up on the other side, put the wheel on, and then we're going to move on to the rear, check the rear out, and start having work on the engine. And then, so our front end is back on its wheels now, so we're all tickety-boo at the front end, everything is sorted. And you know, this is just, honestly, it's a voyage of discovery. I'd actually forgot what I'd done under the rear of this. Take a look at this. I forgot I had the engine out, the gearbox out. I've obviously replaced the rear gearbox mount, and I think I stripped and rebuilt the gearbox. You can see the drive shafts are all reconditioned because they've all got new boots on them, and they're all torqued up. However, there is an oil leak. Now I don't know if this is an oil leak from the gearbox or an oil leak from an engine, but I'll have a look another time at this. I suspect it's the engine and it's been blowing back. Maybe the rear main seal
I don't think it's a gearbox that's been leaking, but it's very wet everywhere. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of a look over this, see what it is, but this can be the next episode really, where we're moving on to the rear end. We'll replace some of the fuel pipes up here, just because they've probably not had fuel through them for 4 or 5 years and they're prone to splitting. I think somewhere under there is, yeah, there's just a small pipe there from the fuel tank, so I'll take that fuel feed off. You can see I've painted all this nicely around here while the engine was out. I'll fix that fuel, replace that fuel line, drop the engine out, and we'll have a look. It does look quite wet towards that end, although if it was the engine leaking it would go further back, it wouldn't exactly come forwards. So I've got to see. Looks actually wetter on that side, on the drive shaft, than this side. Maybe it's that seal there that's leaking, but that can be another episode. Okay. So I think this episode will do as an introduction to the new project. Obviously, as I say, Porsche Shop going. More content to come, so please like and subscribe, and see you soon. Thank you, bye.